Greetings, brothers and sisters. This is Bro.Osi King, the privileged servant of Papa Joshua Igila. I would like to welcome you to our weekly broadcast titled Recipe for Healthy Christian Living. And today we want to continue our discourse on the subject, is the dead really dead? But before we begin, we'd like to first of all thank our father, Papa Joshua Igila, for the privilege he granted us to host this outreach program, where you and I can have access to the day-to-day practical realities of our everyday Christian work, aside what is being taught us in our churches. And so invite your friends and your loved ones and those who wish you well to this segment today. Praise God forevermore. Well, our subject is the dead really dead? It's one question many need answers to. When a loved one passes over to the other side, what does the other side look like? Do we have dealings with the other side? What's our relationship like with those in the other side? Can they influence what happens here after they are long dead and gone? Things like this we need to understand, we need to know. And is it possible to communicate with the dead? Now, in many Christian circles, we try to put up a red flag when it comes to talking with the dead. And we need to begin to look at the truth of God's word concerning it. You know, Paul the Apostle tried as much as possible to communicate this reality. Please be kind enough to go to 1 Thessalonians. Let's see a thought. Paul the Apostle tried as much as he could to communicate to the church in Thessalonica, because they had been heavily struck with grief. And Paul the Apostle had to explain to them how to deal with it. Interestingly, he did not tell the people in the church in Thessalonica to mourn for the dead. Those who lost their loved ones, he did not tell other Christians to mourn with them, even though Jesus said, mourn with those who mourn. But Paul did not even encourage mourning with a relative of a deceased person, one who departed. Rather, he used the word comfort. Let's see thoughts. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, Paul began to explain something from verses 13. He says, but we do not want you to be uninformed, that means ignorant, brethren, about those who sleep. Now, he calls it sleep. Those who died, literally died. Here he's not referring to the spiritual dead. He's referring to those who died physically. But he says it's a sleep. He calls it a sleep. If he did call it a sleep, then that means that whatever those people are experiencing in their sleep, whatever it is also most of the things many of us who are not dead yet experience every night. So, whether it's a long sleep, whether it is an eternal sleep, whether it's a 7-hour sleep, whether it is an overnight sleep, whether it is what you call a cat nap, it's still the same thing. Still the same thing. That's how the journey begins. let's show you something. What is it like in the other side? This, so we'll try as much as possible to see how we can explain everything to you. And this will even help you never to be afraid of the dead. Because they are even more alive than you. In the sense that they are very real. That's what we're trying to say. They are very real. More than the clothes you put on. So, let's show you something. It says, but we do not want you to be uninformed, ignorant, brethren, about those who are asleep, that you may not grieve, as do the rest of those who have no hope. Here, he says, there are some people who have no hope at all concerning their dead relative. Okay, so we know that there are those who have lost hope when it comes to their dead relative. But then he says there are some of us who have hope, and there are others who don't know the hope they have about their dead. And those are the people Paul wants to talk to. He said, look, don't behave, don't act like others who are hopeless. Someone say, hey, I'll begin to suffer now because my mother died. And it was my mother who used to give me everything I wanted. Now she's dead. Oh, it's a hopeless case. Now my misery begins. Now my suffering begins. There are people in that circumstance of life. And whatever they are saying is true. When they say, now my suffering begins, because the one who used to be there for me is no more. It is true. So there are people who have no hope about their dead, who have no hope about their dead, and have no hope about themselves because of the dead. We hope you got that. Then there are some of us, because of what we already know, we have hope about our dead, and we have hope in ourselves that even though those ones are dead, there is still hope. There's still so much to live for. In fact, those who departed will want us to win in the area where they failed. So there are people like that. But then there is this third category Paul wants to talk to. That this category are people who have the hope but don't know they have it. They do have the hope but they don't know they have it. Now pay attention to this. Because if I know I have hope about my dead, it means that I can still communicate with my dead. It means, therefore, I can tell what my dead wants from me. Interestingly, the hope he was really referring to was in reference to the resurrection. But you get to see why we said what we said. Now, Paul the Apostle was a man of God who could say one thing and mean 20 things because of the diversity of his audience. So he could already tell, sometimes by the outfit, by the kind of arguments certain people were going to bring up, or he has heard before, or by the kind of people who were sitting in front of him, he could tell the kind of audience he had. And so he could say one thing that could mean 50 things to 50 people. So even though we're reading what we're reading, you get to see Paul covered several areas. Here he says in verses 14, if we believe that Jesus died and rose again. Now notice that when Jesus died, he rose again to do what? Someone say to go to heaven. But before he did, he appeared to his disciples and communicated with them. Even stayed with them for 40 days. This kind of experience had nothing to do with spiritual sight. They were literally seeing Jesus, the one who was dead, who was buried, Rose again. Now, pay attention to that word, rose again. Now, for you to add the word again there, it will want to suggest that he, crossing over to the other side of life through death, came back as though nothing happened at all. Now, for you to see that he rose again, it also suggests this was not the first time Jesus had this kind of experiences. There's something Paul is trying to say that he didn't say that he said. You know, people think that Jesus needed to die physically first to cross over. He had always been crossing over. He had always been crossing over. Take, for instance, let's take a simple explanation. Jesus said, I do what I see my Father do. I do what I see my Father do. Okay. When you now read Luke chapter 1, verses 26 to 32, Luke chapter 1, verses 26 to 32, you discover that Jesus, when the angel was talking to Mary, his mother, about his birth, the angel said in verses 32, Jesus, the son Mary was going to have, will sit on the throne of his father David. The angel was explicitly clear that King David was the father of Jesus. Now, in Acts chapter 2, Apostle Peter told us from verses 25 to verses 33, Acts chapter 2, verses 25 to 33, on the day of Pentecost, Apostle Peter testified that that King David is dead and his sepulchre, that means where he was buried, is still with us. But let's leave the sepulchre part. Let's focus on the part that Apostle Peter testified that King David is dead. He said, men and brethren, remember the patriarch David, who is dead. So, King David is dead. Jesus, the angel told Mary, his mother, Jesus will sit on the throne of his father David. So, Jesus has now been born. He has received the Spirit. He's walking in the realms of the miraculous, on his journey in the miraculous, and yet testified with his mouth, I do what I see my Father do. Which one? Someone say, the Almighty Father. I thought in Hebrews chapter 4 we were told the Almighty Father is resting. He's no longer walking. At least to the Jews. They were told to enter the rest of God. And it was linked to Genesis chapter 1. That on the seventh day the Lord rested. So which father will be doing something? No, King David, we were told, is the father of Jesus. Now, Romans chapter 1, verses 3. Romans chapter 1, verses 3 tells us Jesus is the seed of David. Then Matthew chapter 1, verses 1 tells us Jesus, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Matthew chapter 1, verses 1. Now, Acts chapter 2, still on the day of Pentecost, from verses 25 to verses 33, we are told Jesus is the fruit of the loins of David. Loins, L-O-I-N-S. That means from his body. Acts chapter 13, verses 23, the Bible says God made a promise to King David that from his body he will raise up a seed, Jesus Christ, that will be the Savior of Israel. The scriptures are all there, clear for us. So Jesus, in fact, Jesus was specifically referred to by blind Bartimaeus as the son of David. He is the seed and the son of David, the Bible says. Now, the reason why we're bringing you into these realities is because we see Jesus here said something that the apostles could not capture. Apostle Peter later said, King David is dead. And Apostle Peter testified, Jesus is the fruit from the loins of King David. Okay. But before Apostle Peter had this understanding of who Jesus was to be the fruit from the body of David, which he testified of on the day of Pentecost, before that happened, Jesus had earlier said to them, many, many years ago, I do what I see my Father do. Which one? King David. He says, I do what I see my Father do. Okay. Apostle Peter said, King David is dead. I do what I see my Father do. The angel said, Jesus will sit on the throne of his father David. Matthew chapter 1 verses 1. Jesus the son of David, the son of Abraham. Okay. So, from all indications, we can see the fatherhood of Jesus. Now, did you realize that when Jesus was on the cross, he cried out, my God, but did not say, my Father, why have you forsaken me? No, because his father never did. But he said, my God. Now, when you are in a situation like that, being on the cross, is that not the best time to call on your father? No, he said, my God. So he could tell the difference between Father and God. Jesus could tell. As a matter of fact, if you read John chapter 5 verses 17 to 20, John chapter 5 verses 17 to 20, he said, my Father and I are one. And the Bible says, the Pharisees there were upset because he said God is his Father. But he didn't say God is his Father. He just said, my Father and I are one. It was the Pharisees who presumed that he was referring to God. Okay. There's a reason why we're saying this. And the people knew that he was the son of David. No doubt. Because in John chapter 8, they said to Jesus, when you read from verses 43 down, from verses 39 down to verses 45, they said to Jesus, we are not born of fornication. If you know what that means, they were trying to tell Jesus, the cock and bull story of your mother's virgin birth of you is born out of fornication. And moreover, King David, your father, was a big time fornicator. He was in the business big time. He was a kingpin in fornication. So they said to him, we are not born of fornication. Trying to say to Jesus, he was a product of fornication. Because they knew the family story, being the son of David. So, the whole point here is, Jesus said, I do what I see my Father do. Now, Paul is telling us that if we believe Jesus died and rose again, why is it using the word again? He would have just said, if we believe Jesus died and rose. We all know what that means. But to put the word again, that will tell you something. You know, even English language that many of us speak, for me I'm still learning it, but even English language that many of us speak everywhere today, sometimes it's amazing that even preachers who speak English don't pay attention to what they are saying. And interestingly, in the original Greek, the word again was also used actually. They were put together, rose again. And it has a Greek number, 450. It has a Greek number. Those two words, rose and again, together. So, and that will make you understand that this is not the first time Jesus was departing. He will cross over. He will cross over. For instance, if you look at what happened to Stephen, Stephen experienced it. Before he died, he had already seen it. He said, now my eyes are open and I see the Lord standing at the right hand. He had already seen it. He could tell where Jesus was specifically in heaven. as big as heaven is. He could tell specifically where Jesus is. Someone said, no. That's obvious for everyone to know. Jesus is on the throne. No, he's not even on the throne. That's the point. He said he's standing on the right side. The right hand. He's standing there. So you see, to say it's obvious Jesus should be on the throne. No, you missed it, because Stephen said, what I'm seeing, he's standing. Not even in front of the throne, on the right side. So that means he's not sitting on it. He was very specific. The point is that he had already crossed over before he even gave up the ghost. So the point here is that we're trying to let you see here that when you see the word rose again, that means that this was not the first time he did that. Okay, think about this. He said to the disciples, let's cross over to the other side in Mark chapter 4, right? So they were journeying. And then as they went, the Bible says he fell asleep. He fell asleep. Someone said he was just sleeping. Okay, how can a man sleep to the point that he did not know that there was a storm? You must be dead to not know that there's a storm. With thunder and lightning, hurricane storm, and you don't know. The disciples did what they could. You mean Jesus could not hear the movement? As they were floating, throwing things over. You see, you didn't pay attention to that. You just read the story. They had to come and wake him up. They said, Master, don't you care? You want us to perish? Then he said, come on. Why do you not have faith? Then he came and said, peace, be still. Wait, Jesus, let's ask you, where did you go to? You say you were sleeping? Oh yeah, I was sleeping. Did you ever read that in John chapter 4, when Jesus got to the city of Sychar, where he met the lady by the well, the Bible specifically narrated he was tired. And he could not go further. He sent the disciples instead and then sat with the lady by the well. But the Bible specifically said he was tired. Now, when he said, let's cross over to the other side, there was no record that it was written. He was tired. The same Jesus said, I do what I see my Father do. So that means whatever Jesus did, he had to see it first. How? Someone say, in the visions of God. Did you ever notice throughout the life of Jesus that whenever to Jesus had a vision? Not one day. Someone say, did he need to? After all, he is God. He needs to. See, please don't be unreasonable. Pay attention. Don't pay attention. Read your Bible carefully. You will never ever see where it was written that Jesus had a vision. Yet he was 100% man. But Apostle Peter had a vision. Apostle Paul had a vision. All these men had visions. Jesus never had a vision one day. Why? Because he didn't need to. That's what we're saying. All he needed to do was to cross over. See, we can understand if you're a pastor and you don't understand this. But those of us in the prophetic, those in the prophetic office, we know exactly what we're trying to communicate to you. Sometimes if I want to know some things, I can say, okay, let me just go to bed and I'll talk to the Lord. The Lord will take me on that journey. I will know everything I want to know. If I want to source for an information, I know what to do. I won't lie to you. I know what to do. It's a grace God has given us. All I just need to do, I can choose to sleep. I can choose to just do what I need to do. And I'll start seeing what I need to see. Or sometimes the Lord can tell me, don't worry, you will get the information. And sometimes it may take 3 days, it may take 1 week. But sometimes, I recall one time I had to talk to the Lord. I wanted to know something. And I was pressing the Lord on it. The Lord said, don't worry, I'll give you all the information. And somebody was having a function a week after, And the Lord told me to go. And the person had given me the invitation a long time. And I was not really interested going. The Lord said, go. And where I was sitting, the table I was sitting, two guys were at the table discussing the matter I had asked the Lord the week before. And they were discussing the whole details. In fact, the friend was telling this other one, let me tell you the whole story. Look, this is it. It's like this. He was calling names, telling me, and I was just sitting there, just looking. But I was listening to everything. So sometimes God does that with me. Sometimes He can tell me, put your ear by the wall in the house, and I'll start hearing things that I need to hear. But don't worry about that, amen. Don't worry about those areas. But what we're saying is that Jesus was not tired actually to fall asleep. He went to sleep. The Bible says He rose again. That means He has always been doing these things. He has always been doing these things. The first global, public, tangible proofs of Him doing this was the death on the cross. When He died, and then, of course, everybody saw Him publicly die. And this was the reason why I'd like to read something to you. I believe this topic will not be able to finish it anytime soon because there's so much to share. But at this point, we'll begin to round off. But let's show you something in John chapter 11. Here, we want to explain something to you about the story of Lazarus. Before Jesus went to wake him up. Verse 1 of John chapter 11 said, now a certain man was sick, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. And it was the Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment. Now, this had not happened yet. It was in chapter 12 it finally happened. But already the writer had already experienced it to write it. Okay. Now, it was the Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. The sisters therefore sent to him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom you love is sick. And when Jesus heard it, he said, this sickness, which means there have been many sicknesses. He said, but this particular sickness is not unto death. So there's a reason why it came. And when Jesus finally raised Lazarus up, he did not address the sickness. So he didn't need to. The resurrection alone cured the sickness. No. You see, if you look at the gifts of the Spirit, there's what you call the gifts of healing and the working of miracles. Raising the dead is a miracle, it's not a healing. So if someone was sick of meningitis and died, and then one who is graced with the working of miracles comes to raise him up, it doesn't mean that the person is healed. The person only experienced a miracle of rising from the dead. It still doesn't mean the person is not sick. For instance, isn't it amazing? A little girl died. Jesus woke her up and said, give her food to eat. That means hunger made her pass out. Why didn't Jesus just raise her up and say, you are full now in your stomach? No, he said, give her food to eat. That means he was addressing one of the cause of her death. He said, raise her up and then give her food to eat. So starvation can kill. Someone say, but the family already had everything. How do you know? How do you know? Your body metabolism may not be the same with others. Have you not seen some people, they don't even take drug or smoke weed, it's like they want to die. And sometimes some of them can die. Jesus said, no, give her food to eat. So that means he worked a miracle in her by raising her from the dead. It didn't mean she was free from hunger. She was still hungry, which was the cause of her death. Jesus said, now give her food to eat. So that you raise someone from the dead doesn't mean the person is healed. If the person used to take medications before, you still need to give the person medications. Or you need to look for one who has the gift of healing to finally bring the healing. But you know, people don't know these things. So they think, well, he raised him from the dead, so the man is fine. So you say, I'm happy for you. So you hug the person and you can squeeze life out of him. The person can die again. That's why sometimes somebody can be raised from the dead. You find the person gasping. The person is trying to, why? Because what made them die in the first place is still there. Someday you get, let's show you. Notice what Jesus said. This sickness. That means this is not the first time Lazarus has been sick before. The people feared that this sickness was going to cause his death. Jesus said, this one will not kill him. That means that there was one that should have killed him. He survived it. But this one will not kill him. But he died. But let's see whether Jesus was correct or wrong. Follow this. And when Jesus heard it, he said, this sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified. So that means that Jesus knew this sickness was for his own good. Wait, Jesus, you are funny. You mean somebody needs to be sick so that you can be glorified, Jesus? Jesus said, yes, sir. Lazarus just has to be sick. Oh, Jesus, I have one question to ask you. I can imagine Jesus say, go ahead, Osi, ask me the question. Why did Lazarus have to be sick? Why not Judas Iscariot? Knowing that Judas Iscariot was going to betray you. I guess Jesus will tell me, Osi, my son, honestly, if it was Judas Iscariot who was sick, I will know. In fact, I will cause many sickness to make him die. I will cause that sickness to make him die, knowing what he was going to do to me. But notice, one man's sickness is another man's glory. That's what Jesus is saying. In fact, this is not the first time he made this kind of remark. You see, if you go to John chapter 9, Jesus. Look at what he said in verses 1, into verses 3. As he passed by, he saw a man blind from birth. And his disciples asked him, saying, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his mother, that he should be born blind? So there was a guy who was born blind. Hear what Jesus said. And Jesus answered, it is neither that this man sinned nor his parents, but it was in order that the works of God might be displayed in him. So there are certain handicap conditions that can happen to certain people for the works of the Lord to be demonstrated. But for this one, his sickness was for the glory of God to be manifested. Wonderful. So sometimes there are some people you should not try to cure. You don't know whether God wants to do his works through them. Because there's a man of God somewhere God wants to lift. Because no, let Reverend Ogbunaya have epilepsy and stomach ulcer. So that Bro.Osi, I want to exhort Bro.Osi. So they bring Reverend Ogbunaya, then we pray for him and he's free. Everybody says, oh, God has anointed Bro.Osi. You see, Jesus here is exposing something here. He said that's how God does it too. Just don't be the victim now. Lazarus' sickness was to glorify Jesus. If you go to John chapter 12, you see one remark Jesus made. The Bible says certain Greeks came to look for him from verses 20. And Jesus began to talk. Now, see what Jesus said to the Father. He said, Father, glorify thy name. There came therefore a voice out of heaven saying, I have glorified it. I have done it. When you raised Lazarus from the dead. Jesus already said, for the glory of God, but that the Son of God may be glorified. Now Jesus is saying, now, Lord, do it. Lazarus has already risen from the dead. The Lord said, I've already done it. Okay, I'll do it again. Yeah. This is Jesus here. Wonderful. He just wanted more glory. He said, do it. The Father said, but I've already done it now. Okay, I'll do it again. I'll do it again. Oh, man. Jesus. But back again to John chapter 11. Let's quickly show you something. Then we'll dismiss for today. In our next broadcast, we'll continue further. But Jesus said to the sisters, This sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified. Now Jesus loved Martha and his sister, and that means Mary and Lazarus. Okay. Follow this carefully. When therefore he heard that he was sick, he stayed there 2 days longer in the place where he was. He delayed. Why? He said, God must glorify me. I'm not coming to cure him immediately. So I say, man of God, please come. Oh, my uncle will soon die. My uncle will soon die. Please hurry up, hurry up. The man of God said, forget it. Let your uncle die so that God can exalt me. I know we will wake him up. I want God to announce me. That's what Jesus is. Jesus delayed. So sometimes there are certain delays that can glorify you. We'll talk about that someday. Okay. Then after this, he said to his disciples, let us go to Judah again. The disciples said unto him, Rabbi, the Jews were just now seeking to stone you, and you are going there again. The Jews wanted to stone you to death, and you are going there again. Jesus answered, are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble, but he sees the light of this world. Here Jesus was trying to say that the only time those Jews can apprehend me is if I walk in the night. But if I go in the day, they can't arrest me because publicly it will be too public, it will be too open. So my safety is in the day. But if I choose to walk in the night, that's when they will apprehend me. So Jesus knew it's not good to be a night crawler sometimes in certain cities. In Judea, it is not wise to be a night crawler. Some of you who like to stroll in the night, you know, there was a time the night used to be my afternoon. But Jesus is advising us here. Be careful. Let people see your light. Let the world see your light. Okay. Verse 10. But if anyone walks in the night, he stumbles, because the light is not in him. This he said, and after that he said to them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep. Say he has fallen asleep. But did you read what he said in verses 4? That this sickness is not unto death, yet he died. But Jesus called it sleep. To the others, it was a sickness unto death, and he really died. Jesus said, no, he's sleeping. To you, you think he's dead. He's just asleep. And Paul talked about, let us not behave like those who have no hope because of our relatives who are asleep. Okay, now notice this. Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I go that I may awaken him out of sleep. Now notice, out of sleep. So sleep is a house. It's a place. Have you ever been to a cinema before? A theater, a cinema theater before? You remember when you enter the cinema or the theater cinema, the place is all dark. All dark. And you are in there watching all the movies. Sometimes in the movie they can show the avenue you just drove past before you got to the theater. Depending on the setting of the movie. You can see everything. The city life. You can see anything depending on the setting of the movie. You can see everything. Then when you are done, you came out. You see that? But in that place, nobody could reach you. Your phone was off. You really wanted to enjoy yourself. Nobody. You don't want anybody to disturb you. You and your popcorn watching your movie and all that. Nobody could reach you. You put do not disturb on your phone. So at that point, you are like someone who is what? Dead. You are asleep. You don't know what is happening in the cities. But when you were done after a few hours, you came back. You came out. You came out of the cinema. You didn't say, let me take my bath and then come and sit again. No, you had to leave. Jesus said, I'm going to bring him out. I'm going to awake him out of sleep. Then the disciples said to him, Lord, if he has fallen asleep, he will recover. That means he will wake up. Now, Jesus had spoken of his death, but they thought he was speaking of literal sleep. And now, notice, even John here is admitting that they thought that Jesus was talking about literal sleep. He was part of the disciples. But to Jesus, it was a literal sleep. But the reason why it looks like a sleep of death is simply because the Father wanted to glorify him. It was still the same sleep. Whether it was short, it was long. When you were dreaming what you were dreaming in your sleep, how come when they called you, you heard it? How did you hear? How did you hear when they called you? When you were fast asleep, dreaming what you were dreaming. Nobody touched you, but they called you, Johnson! You stood up. Hey! Did you notice Jesus called Lazarus with a loud voice? Okay. Now, see what happened. Verse 13. Now, Jesus had spoken of his death, but they thought he was speaking of literal sleep. Jesus therefore said unto them plainly, Lazarus is dead, and I am glad for your sakes that I was not there, so that you may believe. Let us go to him. So, wait, Jesus, you wanted to be glorified, right? The death of Lazarus will glorify you. Okay, we understand that. But then, there's something again you are saying. You are actually saying that you are glad that he's dead, so that when you wake him up, your disciples, including John who is writing this, will believe in you. You mean they never did? You will say, honestly, I plead guilty. They never did. And if you read Mark 16 verses 14, the Bible says Jesus reprimanded them for their unbelief. They didn't believe. Okay, now see something. Hear what Thomas had to say. Thomas, therefore, who is called Didymus, said to his fellow disciples, let us all go that we may die with him. Now, did you notice what he's saying? Jesus has been using the word sleep, sleep, sleep. Now he now said he is dead. Thomas said, let's all go and die too. Now, in as much as Thomas was who he was, which was why when Jesus appeared, Jesus made sure he was not home. Even it means Jesus did not like the way Thomas spoke here. And even though what Thomas said sounded disrespectful to Jesus, there was still truth in what he said. Jesus said Lazarus is asleep. Thomas said let's all go and die. How can he not be careless with words like that? No. Thomas knew what he was saying. Thomas knew. And if you read further, Jesus did not say a word again. Let's all go and die. So that means that sleep is a form of death. But really, the difference between death and sleep is that this one goes and does not come back again. But this one goes to come back. That's the difference. Okay, the people in prolonged coma, where did they go to before they came back? And sometimes they may say, well, we just have to release him and let him go. And you find the family begging, still leave him, we'll still pay, let him stay, he will recover. That means he has gone on a long journey. Maybe he's finding his path back. In our next class, we're going to discuss what is it like there when someone crosses over. You know why people are afraid of death? Because they don't know what to expect. Is it that when I die, do you know how many Christians who are even afraid to die because they believe that even when they die, they will go to hell? But what if you don't? What if there's something? Don't forget, hell is beneath. Yeah, because they dug the hole now and put me inside. It's a grave. So that means I went to hell. In our next class, we'll discuss that. Because there's something we're trying to communicate to you. But by the Holy Spirit, we're going to take it A, B, C, D till we get to Z. Then you get it. Then you'll be able to understand what we're saying. Listen. As a Christian, for me, it is my sincere desire that as a leader and as a minister under the leadership of our father, Papa Joshua Igila, not to raise ordinary Christians. I don't want to pastor and raise ordinary Christians. I know where I'm coming from biologically. I know the battles we have seen, faced, conquered, won. And being ordinary did not give me that victory. you need to understand, a time comes when you begin to battle spirits. What do you do? What do you do? What do you say if your spirit slaps your daughter and you don't know which hand touched her and you don't know how to fix it? We'll tell you some more things. Beautiful things. Beautiful things. But like Jesus said, many things I want to say to you, but you can't comprehend it. Already, we understand that some people already have issues with what we teach. But come on, what do you think God is? Think about it. Are you going to live your life all around God loves you, God loves you, God loves you, God loves you, He cares for you, He cares for you, He wants you prosperous, He wants you healthy. Okay, fine. He wants you prosperous. Why are you not prospering? Have you thought of it? God wants you prosperous. God wants you healthy. Why are you not prospering? So I say, because I'm ignorant. That's why I want to teach you now so that you can gather the knowledge. You are ignorant. And God says my children are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. Now you have issues with the truth that we're telling you. So I say, no. This kind of lesson, I don't understand it too. We just read it from the Bible. The same Bible you read. Okay. We're going to take it step by step. But if this is how you're going to do it in your Christian walk, when are you finally going to arrive? When are you ever going to finally arrive? Think about it. You are a man. You're already married for many years. Yet you are still in the kindergarten levels in your spiritual walk. What do you do when a demon slaps your wife? What do you do when the spirit of the dead gives stroke to your son? Isn't it amazing? Jesus at the age of 12 had confidence that he could take care of himself. At the age of 12. For 4 days they could not find him. Yet he never said, Mama, I'm hungry. Do you have candy there? Do you have cookies? Did not. Did not. At 12. No wonder he was ready at 30. And some of you now, you're already 45, 50. Some of you 27. Jesus started at 12, 27. Your girlfriend has you as a prayer point that God will touch your heart so that you can come to church. What kind of man will you be, brother? What kind of man will you be, sister? When the idols from your father's house walk into your bedroom to strike you dead, what will you do? Think about it. What if you die? Let's suppose you come out from your body. Say, wait, you mean I just died? They say, no, I'm not dying now. I'm not decided to go. Let me go back into my body. And you don't know how to return. We'll talk more on that. Do you understand? We'll talk more on that. Because what we're trying to show you here is we're trying to explain something to you. That there's a way you can take a battle into the spirit. You discover here you've tried everything in the physical. You say, man, this thing is not, I'm not getting a headway. Okay, now, I want to enter into the spirit. And it is not through prayer. Listen, it is not everything. It is not, there are some Christians who think that it is prayer that can take man into the spirit. When Paul says, in the spirit, he that speaketh in an unknown tongue, speaketh not unto men, but unto God, for no man understands him. Habit in the spirit, he speaketh mysteries. Mysteries to who? To God? Okay, to God, right? Fine, where is God? Speaks unto God. God is spirit, right? He is the father of spirits. What makes you think that the language you are speaking to God, spirits don't know it? What makes you think that it is only God that knows it? So I say, it's a mystery only God understands. Who told you that? It is you that does not understand. Spirits understand it. Have you ever thought about it? If God had a conversation with Satan, what language were they speaking? And they were communicating very, very well. Have you thought of it? So what makes you think Satan does not know God's language? We'll talk about that. So the Satan cannot know God's language. We'll talk about that. That's what we're saying. That it is not prayer. If you look at what John said in Revelation chapter 1, he talked about being in Patmos. There was an exact place he was that pushed him into the spirit. Not every Patmos is the realm of the spirit, but there was a particular place. We'll talk about that. How far do you want to go in your Christian walk? How far do you really want to go? Paul says, even though we walk in the flesh, we do not war in the flesh. That's something we're trying to make you understand. That there's a way you can be fighting an office battle. There's an issue in your office. All odds are against you. There's a way you can transport the matter, carry the case into the spirit, and fix all of them. Then come back in the physical and say, yes, who is that person? Oh, Mr. So. You were saying, that one says, no, nothing. Everything is fine now. Please, welcome back to work. Because if we must be in charge, we must be able to control both the spiritual and the physical by the Holy Spirit. And this is Bro.Osi King, the privileged servant of Papa Joshua Igila. I would like to thank you for making out time in your busy schedule to join us in this broadcast. And of course, if we said anything that offended you, please don't be offended. It's just my method of preaching. And please don't be angry. I'm not like Pastor Joel Austin. He's very nice. I'm not that nice when I'm preaching. All right? And I don't look like him. All right. God bless you all. And we say the rest of your life is the best of your life. Shalom. Bye-bye.